You can't fight the friction! Mission Impossible Fallout is the 6th movie in the Mission Impossible franchise. It stars the Scientology space pope man Tom Cruise. It was directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who's hot off the success of the 5th film Rogue Nation to prove that he was just Christopher Nolan in disguise this whole time. That's gonna need some context. Everyone's been raving about how awesome Mission Impossible Fallout is, and how it's the best movie of the summer, and it's the best action movie ever, and it's so great. Hashtag 2018's Fury Road. And yeah, it is, but it has its flaws. And I've taken 3 weeks because, as usual, I'm late as hell to this sort of thing. But I've taken the time, I've meditated over it, I've thought it over, and now I know exactly what my opinions are on Mission Impossible 6, and these will no way change at all throughout the rest of my life. Anyway, yeah, so getting back to that whole jab about the Christopher Nolan thing, Mission Impossible 6 is great, but the biggest thing, just jumping right into it, is that there is so much Dark Knight envy in this movie. Like, this wants to be a Christopher Nolan movie so bad. When I'd heard that Fallout was going to be the darkest film in the series, I was expecting it to give me something really new and different, but it sort of just gave me more of the same, and, you know, it was a very well-polished, nice-looking same, but it's still the same. It's still the same thing as the previous franchise. I mean, no joke, if you've seen the 4th movie, Ghost Protocol, and then you see this one back-to-back, which I did, because, yeah, of course, I binged-watched all 5 of them before going to see Mission Impossible Fallout. I'm that kind of guy. But you may have noticed that the 4th Mission Impossible movie, Ghost Protocol, has the exact same ending as Fallout. But that's not where the whole Christopher Nolan thing comes into play. The whole Christopher Nolan aspect comes where they're trying to make a dark, gritty movie where the action is a lot more, you know, violent. It's less about tricking the bad guy at the end and more literally just punching him out. It's got the exact same ending as Ghost Protocol, but where that movie was kind of a lighthearted romp of, haha, let's stop the bad guy and we'll get the Michael Giacchino cool swing jazz score. This is just dark. I mean, it's got that like Wally Pfister Dark Knight cinematography. There's these anamorphic lens flares you get in a lot of the shots. It's a beautiful looking movie, but I feel like the subject matter of just like, oh, it's a, you know, fun spy movie where the whole point of it is just to see what crazy stunt Tom Cruise can almost kill himself with, doesn't match the sort of tone and feel of what they're going for. So yeah, the cinematography is great, but the score, oh my god. I'm gonna play right now 2 examples of a Mission Impossible movie score. The first one being from number 4, Ghost Protocol, and then right after that, I'm gonna play that same musical cue, the same leitmotif, but from the 6th movie, and I want you to listen to the difference in this. So yeah, if that comparison doesn't immediately sum up what the tone of this movie is going for and how the whole score sounds like throughout it, you get what I mean. This movie's score and its cinematography is so Dark Knight-esque. At one sequence, I think they literally steal music from The Dark Knight. Again, I'm gonna play this track right here and I'm gonna compare it. Tell me if these 2 tracks don't sound familiar. You see what I mean? It's the exact same thing, but instead of being a weighty, heavy, philosophical movie about Batman, this is a weighty, heavy, philosophical movie about Tom Cruise doing stunts? That's the whole hook of these Mission Impossible movies. They've always been just about Tom Cruise doing stunts, and the stunts in these movies just get progressively more insane. My biggest problem with the last one was that it kind of blew its budget, as it were, by putting the best stunt in the movie right at the beginning of the movie. The whole sequence where Tom Cruise hangs on the side of an airplane, that was cool. Maybe they should have saved that for the finale. This movie was smart enough to put its coolest sequence, hands down one of the coolest sequences in the franchise, in the very final act, the third act of the movie, and no joke, the entire time I was white-knuckled watching this. The sequence, I mean, again, you'll know it when you see it, and I saw it in IMAX, which again, they filmed this whole thing with IMAX cameras. This makes the IMAX ticket just worth it, just for this final sequence. But then I rewatched it a couple days later on my laptop screen, because I was bored, and I was like, okay, let's watch like a cam edit of this movie. I'm still white-knuckled. IMAX camera, no camera. I was like, this is intense as hell. I know exactly what's gonna happen. I know where the scene's gonna go. And I'm shaking in my seat because of how well directed and coordinated the stunts are. But as I mentioned before, this movie does get a bit darker. It goes into less like we have to outsmart the bad guy. It's almost we have to outshoot the bad guy. And my problem with the film is that it keeps teasing out these really dark plot turns. But then it always wants to seem to chicken out and take this generic Hollywood action movie approach instead, when it could be so much greater if it actually committed to what it was suggesting. Like there's this really well done fake out early on in the plot that serves a great example of directorial sleight of hand. It's so typical of the Mission Impossible series. But I really wish the script had been, willing to go down that road for real, since it would have been a much different and arguably more interesting Mission Impossible movie had the plot actually revolved around the dire consequences that the scene set up. It would be cool to see how Ethan Hunt and his team go about managing and rectifying the horrible situation they've walked into right at the beginning of the movie, right in the first act. It would have been a total game changer. But then, nope. It was just a fake out. We got you, audience. We tricked you, and that doesn't work. Later on in the movie, there's another fake out reveal, which I saw coming, but I thought, okay, there's no way that a movie this good would show us information that the main characters are not seeing, because the main characters leave for a second and suddenly we get this big twist, but I'm like, wait a second. No, this movie's not stupid enough to just give away the secret to the audience without the main characters knowing. So they work that in. But this first scene, it's like, okay, the main characters know what's going on, so why can't the audience know what's going on? I mean, yeah, it makes for a fun reveal, but there's other just weird bits in it. There's one scene I remember in particular, around the time of the second fake-out reveal, Alec Baldwin pulls a gun on one of the bad guys. And because this movie seems to think that the IMF and Ethan Hunt's team just has this amazing omniscience where they know everything that's going to happen, the bad guy disarms Alec Baldwin, tries to shoot him, the gun's empty. It's like he knew the bad guy would disarm him and try and pull the trigger, even though they already figured out that he was a bad guy. And then Alec Baldwin just pulls another gun on him, and he's like, this one's actually loaded. And I'm like, why didn't you just pull that on him first and just stand a little further back? It's a ranged weapon, Alec Baldwin. Speaking of guns, there's actually this beautiful sequence, just artistically masterful, around the midpoint of the movie, where all the sound just drains out of the picture. It takes on this really eerie ambience, this beautiful sort of just, ambient score noise plays in a massive shootout sequence, all done in this long takes with nice wides, no crazy quick cutting or anything like that. And then, right as you think it's about to take a really dark turn, right at the end of the scene, nope, surprise, it was just another audience fake out. And that's this movie's biggest problem. It never wants to commit to the dark tone that it seems to keep trying to set up. There's other issues, but none of them are as big as the core issue there. There's a lot of overacting, there's some rough exposition at the beginning and in the middle, particularly with Henry Cavill. Yes, the man who nearly bankrupted Warner Brothers with a single mustache. Henry Cavill's a good actor, I think, but he's not in this. He's really bland and dry, and he's a boring character, and he's really flat in all his scene deliveries and his scenes with him talking to Angela Bassett about, like, CIA briefing stuff. kind of comes off as like a CSI Miami tier like cop show in terms of its dialogue. And this is coming from Christopher McQuarrie. This is the guy who wrote The Usual Suspects, one of the greatest screenplays ever. How did this happen? Speaking of actors who I thought this movie probably could have done without, Solomon Lane, played by Sean Harris, I believe? Yes. He comes back as the villain, Solomon Lane, from the 5th movie. At the end of the 5th movie, if you know, no, it's not a spoiler, it's been out for 3 years, you should have seen it by now. At the end of the movie, he gets captured, not killed. So you're like, you know, he could come back for a sequel. And then he does come back, and minor plot spoilers for this one, cover your ears if you still haven't seen it, but he actually escapes after being on screen for like 20 minutes. And seeing that happen kind of just renders the whole movie, you know, the whole ending of the 5th movie pointless, because the second they, you know, recover him, because they have to, so again, spoiler alert, they have to break him out of prison, he just gets free. And then he's back to doing evil stuff again. So what was the point of the entire ending of the 5th movie? You know, it's things like that that make Mission Impossible 6 a frustrating sequel. I wanted to love it, and I do love it. But there's just these little elements that are gnawing at me the whole time. And maybe it's just because I'm a film nerd, elitist, but I don't know. I would say the closest comparison from, I guess, last year is Atomic Blonde. Just like that, this is a really good action movie that I really enjoyed, but it has just a lot of flaws that stick with you, and you can't quite get over them, but you kind of just have to push that aside to appreciate the brilliant action and the brilliant pacing. And oh my god, okay, I've talked enough about all the bad things in this movie. It's time to get into why Mission Impossible 6 is the best movie of the summer. The pacing moves. Just every scene is like go, 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 go. You get, you know, a brief dip at the beginning where it gets kind of slow, and then just action set piece, action set piece, action set piece. Really tense exposition scenes, action set piece, tense exposition. We're setting up the big finale. Oh my god, we're already at the finale and it's been 2.5 hours. How did this happen? The locations also stunningly beautiful. I don't think I've ever actually seen a big budget action movie set in Paris, but the stuff they do in there, in a city I'm familiar with because I've actually visited Paris, so for once all these foreign locations in the Mission Impossible movies aren't so foreign. Seeing that just get absolutely destroyed in like big car chase sequences and shootouts. Okay, it doesn't actually get completely destroyed, like they don't blow up Paris, but seeing Paris just get, you know, used to its fullest extent, every street, every alley is potentially a really cool setup for an action piece. They use it, and it makes for a really interesting location, which is disappointing because immediately after they go to London, and then generic Lord of the Rings Mountain Land. Mission Impossible 6, honestly, has more in common with a roller coaster ride than an actual film in the artistic sense, but I'm okay with that. It's that sense of fun, summer blockbuster movie making that I feel like a lot of modern blockbusters are missing out on these days. And I really hope that studios take note of Mission Impossible Fallout's huge financial success, and we start to get more movies like this. Just maybe with a bit better character development and more of a message and meaning behind it, rather than just the space pope throwing himself out of the back of an airplane. I'm gonna give Mission Impossible Fallout a 7.5 out of 10. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Sorry this video is late again, because this summer has just been, so hard to produce content. I'm working every day. I'm so sleepy. I want to go to bed. I think I'm going to go to bed now. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you leave a subscribe. Can you leave a subscribe? I don't know. Bye guys.